Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Modern Market, where every day we discuss all things to do with the modern market. That is the crypto market, the NFT market, and how to hopefully make some or a lot of money on the internet. Loaded up for discussion today. We've got Bitcoin back to $110,000. SOL is back over $200, and gold is at an all-time high. We will get into a little bit of a roundup there, what we think is going on. Legendary is back today, so he will be leading that. We've got Trump's World Liberty Fi tumbling down to $24 billion FDV, but they have proposed a 100% of revenue token buyback. So we'll discuss some of those details and its performance so far. And we'll be discussing Hyperliquid posting highest monthly revenue ever in August, earning more than $100 million. Rahim will get into that. Delighted to say I'm joined by Legendary, who is back. First day back from his travels, and we've got Rahim as usual in the co-host seats. We're ready to get into it, but just a reminder, friends, before we do, nothing that we say here is financial advice. This market is incredibly risky and we do not know anything for sure, so please proceed with caution and exercise your own judgment. With that out of the way, it is Tuesday. It is the 2nd of September. Legendary, you are back from your trip. How are you doing, my man?
GM, it's good to be back. I landed less than 24 hours ago, missed the show yesterday by a bit, actually got 10 hours of sleep, got an excellent sleep score of 95, given the 9-hour time difference. That's something I'm pretty proud of. The trip was amazing. I did a bit of island hopping on Hawaii and then went to the West Coast and had an amazing month. And I realized I didn't miss too much, and the timeline is still as messed up as usual, to say it like that.
Okay, me and Rahim have been reflecting on this a little bit, so I'll bring Rahim into this conversation as well then. But first, two-part question. A, what were some like key highlights from your trip? I'm sure people will be excited to hear. And then two, as it relates back to the universe you're coming back to, what did you think as you returned looking at the state of crypto Twitter?
Okay, first part, definitely trip highlights were taking a helicopter to go over Maui, do a bit of scenic flying around. I was pretty nervous, and in usual data-driven manner, I started to research how much riskier is choppering around than general aviation, 60 to 80 times. So that made me quite anxious. Another highlight definitely also was for a part of the trip for the first time to not fly commercial, which is such an incredible time saver. It is absurd how late you can show up to the airport and don't go to security, don't have anything to do other than like sit there, wait for 5 minutes and board the plane.
Ooh.
This is absurd. It really is. And the hotels were amazing as well. The second one on Maui was actually the one where they shot the first season of White Lotus, which is one of my favorite shows, which was also very beautiful to experience. And then to the second part of your question, I came back yesterday and I was like, ready to get back into tweeting, replaying, posting. I was like, what is the state of this timeline? Like, it's literally, we're back to doing tier lists, back to the same old things that are happening on X, and interrupted by Elon's political commentary, reposting crimes from all around Europe. And I was like, nah, let's put the phone away and, turn on the TV, do some binge watching. Did like 7 episodes of Landman on Paramount yesterday, to try to stay up and go back to bed at a like normal quote unquote European time to fight jet lag. But yeah, timeline is cooked, man. And it appears even more cooked after you took like a 1-month break from that and you come back to the madness and you realize this is where you choose to spend your entire day on.
Yes. I think there are certainly challenges with the timeline at the moment. I'd be curious either in the YouTube comments, Twitter comments, Spaces comments, or in the Telegram chat, is that everyone's experience at the moment? Because as Legendary described it, is exactly my experience. It's either relatively nonsensical, like crypto drama around how much a KOL is getting paid or something and why they should have disclosed something, which look, okay, fine, people should disclose stuff, but it doesn't mean you need to talk about it forever. Like, there's money to be made here. That's why people are participating on crypto Twitter. It's time to focus. And then B, interspersed with Elon just going to war with every European government, which, look, I'm sure Europe has its issues, I don't doubt, and I agree with there are legitimate issues. But all the posts that I'm getting shown, despite me being in some niche corner of crypto Twitter, is how Europe is falling, the UK is overrun by immigrants. It's like, I'm here for crypto Twitter specifically. That's why I'm here. So curious if anyone else is getting that experience as well. Rahim, we've been reflecting on the timeline before we get into the main headlines and stuff today. What's your reflection on how to approach, or is there a strategy of how to participate here in a positive way?
That's a good question about the strategy side of things. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that a lot of the risk on stuff is just like not doing really well. It's been like pretty flat because like the majors have been like kind of like okay, like not maybe like flat in like the week or so, but none of the memes are doing well. NFTs haven't like ripped like crazy. Yes, we had like a day or two when football.fun did well and like some of the other ecosystems, but clearly like crypto Twitter is filled with like young creators trade and take part in like risk stuff, which is just like not that exciting right now. But man, it brings out like the worst in people. It's like you said, it's like the same rinse and repeat conversation. Every 6 weeks there will be someone talking about like people not disclosing payments. Every 2 weeks there will be someone being like, oh, why is someone spending X amount of money on Kaido when they can hire? It's like the same copy paste thing. And the funny thing is they'll be like, hot take, and write the same bullshit we've seen like 100 times. It's like the most cold take ever at this point. But like, I get you. It's been I've been like taking a lot of time off. I often talk about that. You need to, I think the skill that you need to like really be able to grasp in the space is that rather than just having a regular that, okay, I'm going to take Saturday, Sunday off, or I'm going to take the Christmas off, is find these periods when markets are a bit choppy and crypto Twitter is focused on this degen stuff that is just, you can step away, go touch grass, read a book, watch Netflix, do whatever hell you want, and you won't miss out much.
Yeah, indeed, man. You got to find some time away. Look, maybe this is just a sign of, okay, we've been here for a few years now, and so maybe for the people who are just come, it's more exciting. But I'm kind of well, in line with English had this comment in the comments. CT is cooked, but I'm not sure it's about the KOLs. Feels like crypto has less things to be excited about in terms of asymmetrical bets. I think there's something to that. I think there's also something to the idea that crypto's. I know it's still a very risky asset class, but it's kind of less even dangerous than it was before. Like, I've been thinking about this in terms of hacks. It's getting a lot more safe. Like, you can trust a lot more stuff now on a relative basis. I'm not saying it's never going to happen again, but like, you've got all these L2s. If something went wrong, you seem to be able to get things back. Like, some of the implied volatility, I think, is getting taken out. And so, yeah, we had the meme cycle. Memes ran incredibly well for a while. So, okay, we've played that out now. We had the AI bots, and we ran those up for a little bit, and now those have come back down. And like, DeFi is pretty established now. Some other things are becoming more established. Infra is not the big building your own chain anymore is not going to automatically achieve the $10 billion valuation that it once did. So yeah, I think it's kind of in a holding period. We're looking for a new, fresh something to get your teeth into. Otherwise, it's just about making money and maybe stacking some majors. Ledger, do you want to come back in here?
You made a very good point on that before I went on holiday, where I was like, over the last couple of months, adding more and more money on Hyperliquid, but increasingly feeling uncomfortable to do that. Especially, you have a new protocol, you want to have significant exposure, you add a ton of money to that as well. And then you start to think about your total risk exposure on one single blockchain. And you're like, yeah, but look at every time something went wrong with Hyperliquid, the team made the people whole. We had the same experience on Blast with, I don't know what the hack was back then. I don't remember that protocol's name. Basically closed off the main bridge out of Blast and refunded
You're trapped, guys.
everyone. You're trapped. You can't get your stolen funds off here. So it feels like as we are getting more and more centralized, we're also more protected from the DeFi risks. I mean, there's still risks and there's still hacks, but there's also now more centralized mechanisms to protect against those. It might not be in the ethos of what crypto originally was, but definitely makes it more comfortable to operate within. And also to English's point, maybe it's also a sign of like just crypto being more mature. Like in TradFi people don't go on X all day and await the newest drama to comment on. I mean, there's certainly a subset of people who will do that. I remember when I was working in finance, that was not the thing to do. I wouldn't like just spend hours and hours on Twitter and back then it was Twitter, right? To do that, you just go about your job. And as crypto is getting more boring, maybe that lack of asymmetrical bets, yes, is increasing, but is also like reducing some of the substance to talk about daily on the timeline as well.
Indeed. I couldn't agree more with what you just said there. Oxy and Chuck, Oxy and Captain Cap on the comments to the spaces. Munchables was the one where I thought I lost a ton of money, like a ton of money at one point in time. And you're like, okay, I think I've just lost that on Blast. But they managed to recover it. The attacker got like basically closed off in Blast. They were trapped. They couldn't get the funds anywhere. So look, whilst I would still exercise risk management on whatever chain and only expose what you like, you got to notice some of these trends, and like the trend of if you're on the EVM and you're on one of the L2s and these things are behaving in a slightly more centralized manner. Look, maybe if you are more confident with those specific founders, you can take some comfort in the ways that the additional kind of centralized ways that they might be able to protect you. No guarantees in this space, right? Absolutely none. But I think that's definitely been a factor for me. So, right, let's get into it. Ryan, do you have any final thought here before we get into the main stuff today?
Let's kick it off, man. I want to get useful shit for all of us rolling.
Let's do it. Right. Looking forward to today. We've got a bunch to discuss. Let's start as usual with the crypto price action. We have, oh my God, Legendary's back. He's going to share the screen for me. I don't even have to do anything. I can just read. That's good. Bitcoin is up 1% to 110K. So I think it dipped down to as low as 107 at one point. English calling for 95 in the YouTube comments, trying to steal your Bitcoins from you. ETH is flat at 4.3K. XRP is up 0.5% to $2.80. BNB is flat at 851. Solana is up a couple of percent to 203. So not big, not any huge moves there. Hyperliquid's just kind of chilling at 44. And SUI is also flat at $3.30. Getting into the more meme coin side of things, you've got Doge down a couple of percent, Pepe down 1%, Pengu's up 1. Trump is down 7. It was obviously up 9 yesterday, so kind of just lost the gains in advance of the World Liberty Fi drop, which we'll talk about more later. SPX is down 5. That was up a bit more yesterday as well. WIF is flat. Rect is down 4%. Popcat's down 1%. Most things a little bit red there, I would say, although notable price action on Pump. Again, up 6%, back to $3.7 billion FDV. We were speaking about Pump and Hyperliquid yesterday as still like big revenue earners, and Pump just seemed to sporadically be putting 100%, or not 100%, but almost 100% of its revenues directly back into the token at the moment. So it looks like buyers are getting a bit of confidence there, up 34.5% on the week. So that is clearly one of the bigger winners over the last 7 days or so. Getting into the headlines themselves, which we will be discussing today, we've got Bitcoin back to 110K, SOL back over 200, gold is at all-time high as well. So Legendary, we'll be breaking that down in a bit. We've got Trump's World Liberty Fi tumbling down to 24 bill FDV. It went down as low as like 20, I think, at one point. You know, it started in pre-markets as high as 40. So very volatile there as usual on the pre-market side. They have proposed 100% of revenue for token buyback. So we'll break down what that literally means in a little bit. We will go through the proposal to see if you want to get any exposure there. And Hyperliquid posted highest monthly revenue ever in August, earning more than 100 mil. Rahim will take us through some of the interesting bits of data and information there. On the NFT side, Legendary, is there anything that we need to know? Seeing still some expensive NFT sales on the art side here, but anything else that you think we should know?
Yeah, on the art side, we have this Xcopy Hello Admin DME, which you had in a snapshot, which sold for 70 ETH. Also, a Ringo sale that went through for 10 ETH. And on the more general side of things, the proof passes are up a ton. They are up 40% on the day, and at a 13.7 ETH floor. Like, they went up so much that they flipped both apes and pudgies. And I wonder if I missed any news there. Is it just speculation on the token that they also will get an exposure to that, similar as the Moonbirds, or did I miss anything specific on that? Because I couldn't find anything when I did a quick search pre-show.
I mean, I have not heard anything. Maybe we need to get Spencer back on the show to explain. Rahim, have you heard anything about the proof pass?
all the tweets I read is essentially people are just like speculating the Moonbirds airdrop thing coming to this. Like, at least there's nothing on the timeline. So unless, like, I doubt there is like some behind the scenes stuff happening. I do want to like say that without like knowing anything. But if you search, like, everyone's saying the same thing. No one really knows. So I think it's just like mass speculation. There was someone who spent like 85K buying like 2 passes yesterday. It's just like insane. That's an insane amount of money to spend on something that, yeah, just like makes no sense, man.
It's also insane to think that in the peak bull market, these things traded at what, at 150 ETH? And they were back then giving you access to top tier art drops, etc., etc. So yes, they are.
Wait, so the proof pass and proof collective thing, is it the same thing?
Yes.
Yes, they are these.
It's the same pass. The NFTs have just existed forever, right? They're not going to go
That's
anywhere.
crazy because I remember the proof collective pass essentially was supposed to even expire. It had like a 3-year thing.
Yeah,
That's
you're so right.
insane. So that means this is just like, wow, that would be, yeah, that's pretty interesting to see that, like, if these are trading for at 13 ETH, that's insane.
So that's just for clarity. So Proof were the original creators of Moonbirds. They had the Proof pass first, I believe, and it was, you know, like it was the top tier asset in their ecosystem. It got you access to some art drops. It was, you know, the premier pass for Kevin Rose, former creator of, what was it, Dig, the social network. And so, you know, he was crypto Jesus for a while back in 2021 before the whole project completely spiraled, and he did a terrible job, to be completely honest, and the whole thing collapsed more or less. So that's what that pass is. But as Rahim said, there was a 3-year expiry on them. But look, NFTs exist forever, right? Just because someone says they expire, someone else can come in and say, no, it's actually got this utility now. So maybe there is. Rahim, final point.
Yeah, I feel like there is something missing in the story, because I just like looked up on Blur, the proof pass has 222, whereas proof collective is still a collection with 1,000 pieces. So there is some mismatch over there, because I still see proof collective as 1,000 passes and they're trading at like half an ETH. And I remember them being 1,000 pieces. So this is 222 in supply. So this is clearly something else.
Oh yeah, you're absolutely right. This is Proof Platform, offers safe, vetted, utility-based projects that are fair, launched by seed founders with audited contracts.
So this had nothing to do with Kevin Rose, I think.
No,
or does it?
I think that's the first time ever we've like entirely screwed something up.
me being back on the first day and just reading Proof.
Yeah, blame it on Legendary. He's rusty. But we had absolutely no idea.
To be fair, the branding and everything feels just like very similar. The colors are similar.
Yeah, it looks similar.
The cards are very similar.
Yeah. All right, guys. We're going to timestamp that part of the show as ignore everything said. So basically, ignore everything from the past 4 minutes. English can short us on Hyperliquid right now in the comments. I think that is the appropriate thing to do. Let's make it so we can switch that up though now, and get you to some of the more real news over the last 24 hours. We've got Plasma's XPL dropping on Hyperliquid pre-market by 24% to 7.2 bills. Still really healthy, but man, these pre-markets, you don't really want to trade them. Or if you do, there's volatility, but who knows which way they're going. Very much controlled by whales, I think. Hyperliquid list Linnea on pre-market as well. That's another Ethereum L2 with close connection to Joe Lubin and Consensus. Arthur Hayes' fund Maelstrom produces a $500 billion target valuation for Athena. It's 51x upside. Maelstrom is Arthur Hayes' very prominent investors fund. They also recently put out a very bullish price prediction target for Hyperliquid. Justin Sun has announced that Tron, his chain, has been selected by the US Department of Commerce as one of 9 blockchains to record the release of the government data. In other news, Gigaverse announces an egg mint tomorrow on OpenSea. That's the game by Dith, close founder of the show and close friend of the show. Yeet Crypto Casino approaches $500 million in volume, with $5,000 to the player who lands the $500 million wager. That's pretty impressive. We continue to think that is a good opportunity from the airdrop perspective, and we're proud to be partnered with Yeet Of course, we've got our next giveaway coming up on Friday for the people who are active on our leaderboard. And finally, Metaplanet shares gained 2.5% after investors approved key amendments to increase the maximum number of shares. So I would say a little bit of a quiet today, all things considered, but some interesting stuff to discuss nevertheless. Legendary, before we get into the main headlines today, is there anything catching your attention from the snapshot or anything else you want to talk about after, since you've been away for a bit, reflecting on things? What's on your mind?
What's catching my attention is definitely the plasma stuff. Let me bring up the chart. There we go. It's interesting because I feel like Hyperliquid, and we'll see a similar story probably with Nia as well, is definitely changing the GTM strategies of projects who get this pre-market enabled on Hyperliquid. We've seen the same playing out with Pump. And while on the one hand, the pre-markets get way more accurate with the volumes that we see on Hyperliquid in the hundreds of millions, or with Plasma, that's 40 million just in the last 24 hours, 80 million open interest. It's still a relatively small size that's also easy to manipulate. We've seen it happening with Plasma a couple days ago, a week ago, and I'm absolutely certain you covered that on the show as well. But I feel like it's a very risky game if you have exposure to something and you want to hedge with a short. Like you did the Plasma pre-sale, you want to lock in whatever a price level has reached, and you have your long exposure by having done the pre-sale, and you want to hedge that with a short. This is so easy still to manipulate that, and people will do that. I feel like it's different if you just want to have a non-leveraged long exposure and get in at an early price after the pre-market opened. You want to speculate on a long set of things. But I'd be highly uncomfortable to use the Hyperliquid pre-market for a token to hedge a position where I already have a pre-sale or airdrop exposure on, because it's way too easy to manipulate that with not too much money.
Yeah, I mean, that is 100% the learning for anyone who's lost money here trying to do that. Like, undoubtedly. My maybe broader position, maybe this because I still don't have enough money to play with, all things considered, is I just don't really get the point of it. Like, if you're up huge, why hedge? Like, I just think whether this is Plasma or anything else, the pre-market is not a real market. So in the end, the token's going to come out at whatever price it comes out. You got a huge win. Take the win. Like, I don't know. The thing that I hate, and this to be fair to me, has always served me well. I put out a tweet yesterday saying, I'll just read out this tweet I put out yesterday, because it's been a helpful perspective for me, and it's kind of linked to what I'm saying now. Yesterday, I just said this. I said, if you're up a lot, sell 100% without thinking. In 90 to 99% of cases, you will never regret it. The 1% is Hyperliquid. And in the respect of, in this case, when you're talking about pre-markets, my point is more like, look, you're up huge. Don't sweat it. Like, take the win. Is Plasma going to come out at 5 bill? Is it going to come out at 4 bill? Is it going to come out at 7? Is it going to come out at 10? You got in at 500. It's good. Like, it's going to come out wherever it's going to come out. It's going to be a humongous win for you. It could come out at 2, and it's still decent for the amount of time that you've locked it up for. Take the win. Don't lose money on one money. This is one thing I hate. And so it's like, if I win and if I get a significant airdrop, which has happened in the past, I'm not going to chase the token thinking, oh, this is going to go up at 2x from here. Who cares about the 2x? You've got the huge win already. Like, I really don't like losing money on one money, if that makes sense. The win is the win. Bank the win. Move on to the next thing. And it's always served me well in this case, but would be curious, Legend, then Rahim, if that makes sense to you. Do you ever double dip or whatever?
Oh, it makes sense. And I feel like if you have a position size that is very, very big, and I don't mean in absolute numbers, but like relative to your portfolio, say you did the Plasma pre-sale and I know you put in 100% of your stables, and your total stablecoin allocation in your portfolio is like 40, 50%. So you did a bet that's too huge for your portfolio size, and you want to take those chips off the table. And in an absolute number, it's like still large enough. I'd rather try to get rid of that OTC than doing a short. I think CBP also lost a ton of money on that, if I read that correctly. So for someone of his size, he probably would have had a good venue to OTC some of that. And it's probably something he's done in the past and will also do in the future, because he or they, the brothers, are incredibly smart. And they will take a learning experience from that. But there's other ways to secure the win. And obviously, it's still relatively new that we have the Hyperliquid pre-markets. The first big one was Pump. So a lot of the participants are still learning on that. But I definitely agree. I don't wanna lose on money and double bet on something where I already won for the potential to just win a bit more. I'd rather move on to the next thing and do that instead, because you have some sort of internal bias already, right? Like, I am obviously bullish on Plasma because I put a shit ton of stablecoins into that protocol and I have a nice pre-sale location, and I will be up on that nicely. But I'm not going to do the game and be like, oh, it's going to go to 100 bills, so let me put even more money into that, and then it's going to dump a bit, then I might panic, and then I sell, and then I don't know, eliminated half of my gain. So try to book that profit and then rethink that after a couple of months if you want to go back in for whatever reason, but have at least some sort of like time period as a break in between those two separate transactions.
Indeed. I'm going to come to Rahim here with some obvious comments made in the YouTube comments, which was, they're clearly going to tell me this after I said what I said. OG Gaming says, tell that to hype sellers, which is fair. Remember, I said Hyperliquid is the 1%. It is the 1%. 99% of the times you sell 100% without thinking. Hype is the 1%. But Rune Lord actually did a great kind of response to that in a way. Full disclosure, sold Hype airdrop at the TGE and bought back at 7 to 14. Even if it becomes a winner, you get multiple opportunities in that trade. Like, you get the time to reassess after. So, okay, fine. You book the huge win. You start to like, we're not going anywhere, right? It's not like you're logging off, and I mean, maybe some people will log off and enjoy their win, but you know, you can still reassess the trade, and you had plenty of time to do that with Hyperliquid too. More money will be made on Hype from $40 to $300 than the one at TGE. And I think that's actually an awesome point. It's something I think about more. I was listening to a podcast with a very prominent trader recently talking about how you don't want to be too early to things sometimes. You want to, like, because if you're so early, you're in the stage where you can be wrong. Like, you can legit be wrong if you're so early, always trying the very little things. You want to be like just after early, where you're getting some validation from the rest of the market, and then you're de-risking a little bit, and you can feel more confident in that longer term play because the market's already validating you and you're still early. So I would agree with that, actually. Like, Hype in the $5 to $10 range. I mean, sure, it's nicer to have it for free, but that would have been pretty tasty. Rahim, curious for your thoughts here before we get into the headlines.
Yeah, just to add to the Loon Lord's point that it did dump a bit after TGE, and it's like you have to realize that these were people who were like leverage trading on Hyperliquid. They're getting money to essentially recoup their loss. No one could have seen this coming. Your ideal plan of action, especially when you're getting an airdrop for free, without like locking capital and stuff, should be like that. Like, you know, people could make the same argument of like Pengu, which was like down like 10x for like 3 months, and then it went back up. But like, there are opportunities for you to like sell it after TGE and buy it later. But just to make two arguments on the opposite side to what both of you guys said, which is me trying to rationalize of why people do these trades on the other side, is the basis trade, right? Which is what I'm assuming comes down to what Ledge was talking about, CBB's trade, that he lost $2.5 million on XPL. And I'm assuming, like, you know, people talk a lot in like TradFi doing like the basis trade, and this is something I believe a lot of people with like a bigger capital size tend to do. So I think that is one side. That the second thing is also, I feel like, and again, I completely agree with the things that both of you said. I'm assuming one of the other reasons people try to hedge their bets, we still don't have like a standard protocol direction for when an airdrop happens, you get to claim it instantly, everything goes smooth. We've had so many stories where the TGE has happened, the website is not working, or there's some issue and you've gotten like your tokens like 6 hours later, and you realize, like, you know, your airdrop is down like 60-70%. Like, I was reading, there are people who are still not able to claim their World Liberty Finance tokens yet. I know yesterday on Mexi it opened at like $1 for some god reason. So I feel like there are always like these situations also that I would like to assume that people are like, okay, often we see websites crashing, or I don't know, just like a random protocol issue. Like, you remember how the pump fund sale was like such a big thing? A lot of people just couldn't get into the pump fund pre-sale, including myself. So I feel like I would like to assume a lot of times people hedge their bets of just trying to hedge technology breaking, I guess, you know.
Yeah, I think it's a fair point. It's a fair point in the end. Right. Good discussion. Good to have us all back in the same spot. Enjoyed that interlude. Let's get to the main headlines, though. We want to get to headline number one. We've got Bitcoin. We're talking Bitcoin, SOL, and gold, just a general macro overview. Then we'll talk Trump's World Liberty 5 performance. Then we've got Hyperliquid posting humongous numbers. So I think maybe 8 or 9 minutes or so on each. Let's see where we go first, because I think maybe this general chat will be good for you to get to a chance to share your thoughts here, Ledge. It's been a while since we've had you with us. So Bitcoin back at 110, SOL back over 200, gold pushing to all-times high. What do we need to know here from your perspective? What are you thinking, how the market is moving?
Yeah, it's been a while. Let's do one of the market reviews and have a look. As you said, gold did hit an all-time high earlier today, went as high as almost 3.5K, currently trading at 3.48K, being up 2.5% over the last 5 days, up 6% over the last month or so. There's been a good article in the Financial Times on the gold price, and it seems like that a lot of analysts are still seeing an even stronger potential future rally for gold, with Goldman Sachs thinking spot prices to hit $4,000 by the middle of the next year. A lot of that also has to do with obviously global uncertainty on the one hand, on the other hand, still inflation fears. So gold has been moving nicely as a result of that. But not only gold is up, as you said, the majors are moving as well. You did cover the spot prices. So what I want to do instead, given that it's the start of the month, I want to take a look at Polymarket to see our typical bets, my typical rundown of what price will Bitcoin, ETH, and Solana hit in September, to get a sense of what the market is thinking on that. And just want to pick out some of the numbers for BTC. That is 63% of the market think we're going to see 116K. 44% still think we're going to see 120K. And more than that, the confidence in that is definitely declining. Only 22% think we're going to see 125K in September. A very similar picture with ETH. 50% think we're going to see 5K ETH, 36% see 5.2K ETH, and still 24% see 5.4K ETH.
So just checking, Ledge, you're saying that the majority here, according to Polymarket data, is saying that we thinks we go lower, or majority thinks we'll stay in this range or go higher?
Majority thinks if you just take the biggest bet, it's 114K with 77%, 112K, 90%. So they do think we're gonna go higher. If
but
you look
not by a lot, but not.
No, if you look on the downside of things, you would see like 50% think we're gonna go down to 103K. But the upside, it's a very capped range on both side of things. So for ETH, we have the similar picture on the positive side. I would say like the 24%, like a fourth of the market think we're gonna see 5.4K. And if you look at the downside, half of the market think we're gonna go as low as 3.8K. 32% think we're gonna go to 3.6K, and then it also declines strongly beyond that. And for Solana, the pictures, 50% think we're gonna see 240 for Sol. And if you look at the downside, 47% think 170, 55% think 175. So basically not too much volatility, and maybe a bit more expressed towards the upside, towards a potential rally in September than a downside.
Question for you, Ledge. I mean, I know you've been away a bit, but you must have caught a lot of this discussion. To date, there's all kinds of filings been made for Solana ETFs, but there has not been, those don't exist yet in their current form. Larry Fink has spoken, CEO of BlackRock, has kind of spoken a little bit about how there's no need. I don't know what his exact words are, but words to the effect of there's no SOL ETF yet. There just will not be. Who knows what yet means? My thinking on that is it's taken a really long time to get the ETH ETF moving. Like if you think at the beginning, think of how disappointing and a bit of a anti-climax the ETH ETF's inception was. It was really drips and drabs going in there, not a lot of activity. And so it's only really just got moving now, right? And if you think about it from a client manager perspective, you know, you're trying to encourage, they're obviously trying to encourage flows. And so they've just managed to get a bunch of people doing this. And admittedly, look, a lot of this money's coming from these, what's it called? Treasury companies and stuff. But, you know, you've just kind of hooked people with a narrative, whether that's sustainable or not. You've hooked people. I feel like the market, I don't know if the market's like ready for a similar-ish story. Because although Solana is faster, it's cheaper, it's still a smart contract platform as well, right? So I'm not sure that it's ready for that. Do you have a view there? Do you think it's basically it's still the next trade as a consequence, or how are you thinking about your allocation to the talking of the three majors, or maybe if you want to include Hype in it as well?
Yeah, no, that's a very good question. And just to bring up the chart, it is exactly confirming what you said. Just zoom in a bit here. This is on the right side, the total Ethereum spot ETF net inflow, and the yellow part on the chart is the ETH price, and the green and red are net inflows and net outflows. And in the beginning, back in 2024, actually you had an initial strong inflow and then lots of outflows, and then it was basically days with a little inflow, with a little outflow, but nothing happened really until November 2024, when you had the first ETH price rally. You can see both ETH and net inflows going up. And then we had the same thing of outflows dominating, as ETH did go down to 1.8K, and now obviously on its rally to 4.9K, massive inflows. And now the numbers have stayed higher. Like they have established a stronger floor, so to speak. We've seen outflows of 165 mil yesterday, but the days before 300, 450, 140 mil, 337 mil in net inflows. And those numbers were way lower. We looked at like 10, 20, 30 mil in the beginning. And it took a lot of time to establish a narrative towards TradFi, towards Wall Street. Why do we actually want to buy ETH ETFs? Like BTC was easily understood. Inflation hedge, new gold, whatever, new central bank reserve currency. Those things were easily picked up. But it took the treasury companies, it took the Tom Dees of this world to establish like this narrative of this is the new infrastructure that all of finance will run on, and this is how you express your bet on that by buying ETH. And it would take a similar thing for Solana. So if you have a Solana ETF, then obviously you will need a narrative for that, and that doesn't happen before the ETF. We've seen that with ETH, despite ETH having been around for 10 years now, and it went through all sorts of narratives, right? We had the app store, the decentralized app store, digital oil, all those things. And only now have we established a narrative that seemingly the whole market can agree on, and Solana doesn't have that yet. So even if an ETF comes out, there might be like initial price pump because of the excitement of that news, but it would definitely take some time for it to try to establish a narrative. I wouldn't know what that is. I wouldn't know what the market would agree on. So personally, even if there's a SOL ETF, I'd rather wait to see what narrative forms around that, and then if I like that narrative, increase my Solana exposure again, because basically don't have any SOL exposure at the moment. It's minimal. It's maybe like 1-2% of my total portfolio. It was way higher obviously last year, but I sold all of that. I just don't think it's the play right now.
I know what you mean. The thing that I would be thinking about in the end, the incremental buyer here, I'm coming to Rahim and I see Funky with his hand up as well, so we'll get some takes here. The incremental buyer here are the treasury companies. So in a way, the question is not really are the treasury companies, maybe the ETF is neither here nor there. Like if the ETFs exist, the treasury companies will buy the ETF. if they do not exist, then they'll just buy spot. And one of the things which was we were talking about last week with Brad is like the number of DATs being raised for SOL at the moment. There was 3 last week. One was for 400 mil, one was for 1 bill, and one was for 1.25 bill. So it's like very, very meaningful amounts. Now we had this whole discussion, and we don't know where that discussion came out. Like, are they putting locked SOL in? Because then if there's locked SOL, then there's no new net demand for the tokens that are out there at the moment. Therefore, there's no new buy pressure because it's basically just a way for people who are already holding locked SOL to get early liquidity and not have to wait for their tokens to unlock. Then they can just exchange those for the shares, which will be more or less at MNAV, if not even higher. So there's that thing to work out to make sure that there's some actual cash going in, which creates actual net demand. So yeah, I think we'll see how those. I think my eyes are actually more on the treasury companies in the immediate future rather than the ETF. The ETF's helpful, yeah, great long term, that's good. But right now, the big buy pressure for ETH was the treasury companies, right? So I think that's where my eyes are. Rahim, what's your take? Where are your eyes for this question? And do you have a mix of majors that you're liking at the moment? What's your thought?
So again, I will take like a slightly different opposite take to this, I guess, just for discussion's sake.
Yeah.
So I feel like, in my view, rather than us looking at it, okay, I think Bitcoin needed to have its own narrative, ETH needs to had its own narrative, and now Solana needs to find its narrative. I think rather than that, to me, at least how I was looking at is when the institutional support for Bitcoin came, it was like Bitcoin is one thing and the rest of the crypto space is just like the other thing. So I feel like ETH kind of did that, where it opened floodgates to that whole side of things, where everyone's like, now you have like, I think some of the nuances to take into consideration is that staking for a lot of these ETFs is getting approved. That's something that just like didn't exist for Bitcoin when that narrative was like prime. So I think that's something to take into account. I also feel like there's a level of with when it comes to like the Ethereum Foundation, like there's no PR, there's no marketing, like there's no one like pushing like the entire ecosystem or like a voice for that ecosystem, which I would argue Solana has a very good grasp on in Dubai, in different parts of the places and stuff. Like I feel like they have like a good, like if you fundamentally believe that a layer of this has to do with like how a lot of these blockchains are able to sell themselves, because you have to also realize that Chainlink is getting a lot of institutional support for obvious reasons. XRP is going through that as well. People are finding like Doge ETFs as well. So I feel like at some level, chains coming out and just like really taking that full force forward about like what is it that their narrative is, what they're building, I feel like could have some form of value to it. And I would argue, I completely agree that like the Bitcoin narrative also took a very long time, because you remember like that whole fake Gary Gensler pump, and then we had to wait a bunch of months for Bitcoin price action to show any fruition. We saw ETH. I would argue what ETH did was it opened the floodgates for anything outside of Bitcoin. And I don't know if it would go super explosive like obviously ETH did and stuff, but I think the Solana pump would come a lot sooner than later. It might last for like a briefer period of time, but I feel like that gestation period, in my opinion, could just be like slower.
Good stuff. 2 comments, then we go to Funky. I think, yeah, ETH is definitely late to the party to have like these big spokespeople. I do think now they've set up that marketing arm. I think, is it Etherealize? To like directly go to Wall Street and like market this stuff. And now they've got the pin-up Tom Lee and Joseph Lubin, like, and the ex-guy from the ex-head of digital assets at BlackRock, who's now the co-chairman at SharpLink with Lubin. So like they're getting the people, they're hitting the town a bit harder now, at least on the TradFi side. So I think they're catching up there, but I agree with you on the timing thing. Like each spike is lower and lower. It's like that classic meme roller coaster, right? Where the roller coasters are getting smaller and smaller. We're going to keep going down the risk curve with these treasury companies until there's just no appetite left. So we'll keep an eye on that. Funky, your hand's been raised. Final point, or maybe we'll loop back to Legendary because it looked like he was going to say something there. Funky, what's your take here on what are we talking about? It became like a bit of a mix of majors question and SOL and ETFs / treasury companies. What's your view here?
GM boys, I just wanted to jump in and quickly point out that our good friends at Rex Osprey already have a Solana ETF. It's actually Solana plus staking rewards. They just had their first, it's SSK, the ticker. They did this through the 40 Act, which I'm sure I've talked about on the show before. They love to sort of sneak them by the SEC with this. Instead of the traditional 30 Act, I think is where you launch an ETF. They do the 40 Act stuff. But yeah, it's been out for about a month, and they just had the first payouts last week on my birthday.
Okay, like it. Appreciate that additional info, Funky. That's helpful to know. So that exists. I guess maybe there's like probably some expectation or waiting. BlackRock as the biggest ETF provider, that will maybe provide the biggest boost. But it's good to know that one is already out there doing things already. So appreciate that. Ledge, just circling back to you before we get into the main, the World Liberty Fi conversation. Anything else you want to just close off on this kind of more general conversation?
No, we got 7 minutes left, so let's keep it moving.
All right, let's keep it moving then. So the second headline is about World Liberty Fi. This is the news that the World Liberty Fi team has proposed a program to allocate all fees from protocol-owned liquidity into purchasing and burning World Liberty Fi tokens. The native token started trading on exchanges yesterday, where it plunged basically 34% after its debut. On pre-markets on Hyperliquid, it was trading as high as 40 billion FDV, which is pretty crazy because it's basically just an Aave fork. And I think, let me just double check, but like Aave is trading at, let me see, let me just confirm. Aave is trading at, gosh, this is very slow. Okay, Aave is trading at 5 billion. That's pretty insane. The World Liberty Fi has a 5x premium to the thing that it has forked. So look, very, it's got the Trump premium, I guess. It dropped down to as low as around 20 bill yesterday, then it's bounced up to 25. Around this news that the program will remove tokens from circulation held by participants not committed to World Liberty Fi's long-term growth and direction. The proposal it's just a proposal now. It's not announced or guaranteed. They've done this kind of thing for people to vote on. You have 3 options to vote. You can say use all the World Liberty Fi treasury for buyback and burn. You can keep the fees in the treasury, or you can abstain and say that you have no preference. So I guess we'll keep an eye there. Do you remember though, Legendary? I'm not sure how much weight you can attach to the results of these proposals, because do you remember when they said they were going to give a crazy percentage to Aave because they were forking Aave? Do you remember this? Do you? I can't hear you, by the way.
Oh, sorry. No, I actually don't remember that.
Rahim, do you remember? You're on mute as well.
I don't either, to be honest.
Okay. I'm going to look it up.
Is this like a Mandela effect thing?
Yeah, I mean, everyone's just pretending like they don't know what I'm talking about, and I'm wondering if I've gone crazy or not. Okay, I need to find. All right, I'm gonna find it in a second. Let's I want to hear your thoughts.
Oh, yeah, there it is. Back in November, there was a proposal where the Aave DAO would get 20% of all protocol fees and 7% of the total World Liberty Fi token supply.
Can you imagine Aave DAO getting 7% of a 25?
That would be 1.9 bill with the FTV, as you said, at 5 bill.
Yeah, that would be pretty tasty. But this passed, from what I remember. It passed. That was the proposal they put forward. People were ready to do it. And now we've just forgotten about it. It's like, we don't really fancy giving that. Although, to be fair, I don't know if we do need to be fair or not. There's just been no word on it. So I don't know whether they still have an intention to give 7% to Aave. There's just been no word. I don't know if that's the case. But yeah, it obviously makes you question the reliability of a proposal if one thing is said like that and then it doesn't happen. But there's obviously holding a ton of locked tokens, so maybe that gets distributed at some point in time. I just wanted to bring it up because I thought that's like a really interesting detail to all this, and to see whether that actually happens or not. Maybe it happens in due course. But in terms of the actual activity, Rahim, we had a few people in our Telegram chat trading it a little bit, thinking, okay, is there going to be some crime in the charts? Is it going to go up, or is it just going to be intense sell pressure? Looks like the sell side kind of won out immediately. Obviously, people were up very, very big. I think people were up as big as 20 to 30x. What were you thinking about on there? Did you play? Did you trade it at all? What's your thoughts on valuation here?
Yeah, I ended up like shorting a bit and decided to place like a small long, and this long is less, I guess, for like crazy profit reasons, but more on banking on the idea. Like, I feel like there's no way they just like let it go down at least like so quick. It's just because, and I think there's something that kind of probably clouded my judgment to put that long. I found out that ApeCoin at its all-time high, completely arbitrary, was trading at 20 billion market cap, which is an insane. Like, I feel like sometimes we really forget the valuations of some of these things, like in like different cycles of how things were like running and coming. So I know, just like looking at the amount of, there was some other news like where apparently like Ton is going to be one of the chains that's going to be part of like something related to the US. I stumbled upon it on Twitter. I don't know what exactly it is. So clearly there's like a big Justin Sun and Trump thing going on. So I feel like he's just like not going to pull out like money, and I wouldn't be surprised if he starts like pumping more into it for whatever their long-term incentives are. But just looking at like how Eric Trump ends up putting out his like on the timeline with ETH, and with this yesterday he was bull posting it and just talking
And he
big
likes
about it.
dunking on people,
Feels
anyone
weird.
who says anything bad, right?
Yeah. He like bookmarks them or whoever on his team. I think that's hilarious, by the way. But yeah, so I'm like, I feel like there will be some short-term crime and stuff. But yeah, obviously, yeah, don't know what's gonna happen. Space has become too crazy at some point,
Look, fair enough, man. Like I think a long at 20 bill is better than a long at 30 or 40. Remember, that's as high as it was on pre-market. So I still think that's so much when you think of what it is. You think that Aave is at 5. It's so high, and but we also spoke about the circulating supply. There's nothing on the market. It's like, if the numbers we looked at yesterday were true, it's like 3.7% on the market. And with people making incredible amounts and selling already. There's this one story. I'll share this one before we then talk about another big winner in this, which is Hyperliquid. Rahim, you'll deal with some of those numbers. But we had the story of Techno Revenant, who I believe is the same person who's been actually, I'm not sure if that's the case, but this one account bought 15 million of World Liberty Fi, as in 15 million tokens. So that was a $7 million buy, and has turned that into what is it? 7 million turned into 102. Which ones are the currency and which ones are the 102. So yeah, he bought $7 million worth at the original price. He's turned that into 102 mil yesterday. So like, look, that's obviously going to be some crazy sell pressure while that guy gets out, right? There's no reason for him to say, no, I want to hold this to get it to 40 bill. Like, let the man take his profits. Well played, excellent trade. So those people need to clear out. But because there's probably not a lot of other sell pressure on the market, then who knows? Maybe I'm open to the idea that it can go up from here, frankly, because of that very, very tight control of the supply rather than any kind of fundamental value reason. Edge, you want to come back in here?
Yeah, absolutely agree. It is a mix of very little supply trading on the open market with a ton of people being up on that massively.
Okay.
There are some people like crazy bullish on. Yesterday, someone was like, I was having a back and forth with someone who's gaslighting me for me being crazy, being like, why wouldn't this flip XRP? And like, he was like, and I was like, what are you saying? Like, listen to what you're saying. Forget all fundamental. Just let's talk about time. Let's talk about time of how long XRP is. And dude, like, this person was like gaslighting me like crazy.
Do you know what? I mean, all right, but maybe need long. We're kind of coming to the close of the show, so I need to think longer on that question. I do say you got to invest with some imagination, guys. You got to invest with some imagination. XRP has been long criticized as basically doing nothing, incredibly supply controlled, just kind of ramped up in a very controlled way. Could they do something similar? Sure. Could they? Potentially. What? And then I guess the question you ask yourself is, okay, well, what's the percentage chance that something like that might be on the agenda for the next 6 to 12 months? Maybe the answer is actually quite high when you start to think on it a little bit more deeply. So I'm open to it. I'm actually open to it. I need to look at the numbers and need to think about it way more, but something to think
Ladies
on.
and gentlemen, this guy was not bullish on ETH at 4K, but he's bullish on World Liberty Finance.
Dude,
Hopefully,
ETH is still only at 4.3K. Let's see. When ETH is still at 4.3K at the end of the year, we'll see. Okay, let's see.
I don't want to make it the title of tomorrow's show. I can't be back like 2 days and have to write a title like "Will World Liberty 5 live ripple?"
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're considering it. We'll consider it in the chat in private before we go public with any of our thoughts there. Okay. Look, final headline. Ryan, we're kind of running over here, but it's just an important headline to be aware of, that as all of this stuff is happening, a lot of this activity, specifically on the pre-markets, is taking place on Hyperliquid. What are the key bits of information we need to know here on Hyperliquid's August performance?
Hyperliquid essentially made $100 million in fees this month, which is like the highest they've made so far. Like last month, they made about 86.6 million. There are some key, obviously, moments to take into account. So in July, I believe on the 12th of July, we had the pump fund pre-sale. You had the pre-markets for that ecosystem, which contributed a lot to that fees in July, which was around 86 million. In August, we obviously had XPO, we had the World Liberty Finance essentially doing pre-markets. What's interesting to see is, so Binance also essentially ended up launching their perpetuals like almost like 7 to 8 days before, and everyone was like kind of confused that why is it that we are seeing Binance and Hyperliquid do it the same day. What I feel like it's going to happen is, like, as Hyperliquid starts doing this more and more pre-market, because they're going to start losing a lot of volume to exchanges are going to lose a lot of volume to Hyperliquid. I can see this happen more and more, and I feel like we'll start getting into this war where everyone's like, who can list pre-markets first? And I wouldn't be surprised if these keep getting pushed further and further, that the tokens on pre-market with very low liquidity like 3 weeks before. But it's definitely attributed a lot outside, obviously, like majors pumping and people trading the majors. But I think there are some liquidity events, which is the XPL token, which is the World Liberty Finance token, to take into account when you're looking into ecosystems like this. Obviously, super bullish for Hyperliquid. I quickly want to add like one more thing. I feel like I tweeted this out yesterday. One of the things that no one talks about when it comes to like Hyperliquid, what that whole ecosystem has done is there are certain events that happen in our space that are known to be like a liquidity suck event, and they're going to, like, in some ways very likely mark the midterm top on that niche or whatever. Whether it was the pump token, whether it was the Kanye West token. I think it was amazing that Hyperliquid had the Kanye West token live on Hyperliquid, because if you fundamentally believe that these events are, especially with the Kanye West, right? Like, we knew this was coming. The account was bought and hacked. Like, there was this whole controversy like 2 months prior, that almost everyone, or at least like on the top CT ecosystem, was like, we're going to short it, we're going to short it, we're going to short it. And I think that does, it preserves wealth within our space, rather than a lot of these extractive events just like taking money out in that. I think it's a pretty cool thing that we are able to do that. Obviously, Pump Fund is a great like ecosystem in terms of like revenue, and they're building a lot in this cycle. But if you believe that they were also going to be one of those ecosystems that are just going to extract value and we're not going to like provide the same value back, we clearly saw the charges go down ever since TGE happened. So I don't know. I like the idea of like Hyperliquid having these opportunities, which kind of helps your deep traders kind of have that liquidity event for them to not let that money escape into like this like malicious hands and stuff. But yeah, definitely super bullish for Hyperliquid, and I can't wait to see of how this does over the next few months.
I like it. I like that take. I still think there's like an amount that is always going to get siphoned off in these bad actors come to the space. Clearly, people made a lot of money. People did buy the token. People probably lost a lot of money. But you're right also, which is, you know, some people were then able, or maybe a different group of people were able to profit from it on the way down. Maybe because they are more familiar with Hyperliquid now and have that skill set, which they may not have had in the previous cycle. So you get a chance to participate and turn the negative into at least positive for you. Like, and you know, then I think slowly people are realizing that, I mean, all things considered, the Kanye West token really didn't do much considering what it was, right? Versus previous iterations of celebrity coins. So I like that idea. A couple of other final points is, one, I think no one is faster than Hyperliquid. They just ship faster than anyone all the time, every single time. So I think people are going to really, like, if you want to beat them, then do things faster. But I don't see anyone doing anything faster ever. So they're just the fastest, they ship the quickest, and the product's excellent. So I think that's one thought. And maybe that's the final thought that I wanted to leave on. Ledge, any final thoughts here after your first day back before we close off? And any final thoughts to leave the audience with?
No final thoughts on that discussion specifically, but one thing I will be excited to get back into, and hopefully we'll manage to carve out some time to do it this week, is a bit of a portfolio discussion again. I feel like we had a bit of a lull in August, as you guys have also confirmed, but seeing where we will go for the last quarter of the year and what we think is going to happen, how we want to play that.
Yeah, let's we'll do that tomorrow. I think let's just ship it. We'll do it tomorrow. We'll carve out a bit of time tomorrow to have a bit of a portfolio discussion. August has been pretty crazy in some ways towards the beginning, and then more recently it's definitely cooled down and people are getting a bit nervous despite every damn asset being at almost all-time high. So I think people will be curious for that. Let's ship that conversation tomorrow. Hope you will all be here to join us for that. Just a reminder, we do this every single day, Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. Eastern time, live on X video and YouTube. And you can catch us on Apple and Spotify podcasts if you prefer to catch up over there. Thank you so much to Legendary and Rahim for co-hosting with me. Thank you to all of you joining us, whether you're in the Twitter space, in the YouTube comments, or increasingly going back and forth in the Telegram chat while we are live. We appreciate all of you for joining us. We will see you again, same time, same place tomorrow. Have a wonderful day. Take care. We will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.